All right. Well, it's a new year, and I don't know if it's any better than last year, but we're forging ahead. We've got the athletic directors for some local schools joining us here on the NCWLIFE channel. We have from Cashmere, Jeff Carson. From Eastmont, we have Russ Waterman. And from Wenatchee, we have Jim Beeson. I wanted to start with Jeff because Cashmere's been back to school for a while now. And with the announcement with the WIAA yesterday, changing things up and calling an audible of bringing fall sports into the picture and possibly starting in February. Jeff, I wanted to see where you guys are and what's happening at Cashmere right now and in the Caribou Trail League.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Eric. We've been back to school. This is our fourth week that we've had high school here in a hybrid model. So kids are here either in the morning or in the afternoon, 5 days a week. It's been great being able to see the kids. Our kids are anxious to get back playing sports. It's different around here. Kids wearing masks all day and, social distancing, and it's not normal by any means, but it's definitely been a step in the right direction. So, yeah, got big news yesterday from the WIAA, and today's been a real busy day. Spent a lot of time talking with Russ and Jim and all the athletic directors in the Caribou Trail League in our region, for that matter, trying to navigate this new news and figure out how we're going to get kids back out on the fields.
Well, tough curveball to be confronted with, considering I know that you guys were trying to anticipate a winter sports season first, and I know that that means scheduling, that means travel, that means figuring out everything in pencil, of course. Then, oh no, let's wipe that away and let's go back to talking about football and volleyball and things like that. From your perspective, I know it's only a day since the WIAA made its change up here. What will this possibly look like for the Caribou Trail League, Jeff?
Well, we've become accustomed to this, Eric, ever since back in March when spring sports got shut down. I mean, we've gotten really good at creating schedules and then ripping them up and throwing them in the garbage and then doing it again. So, I don't know. We've had, again, a lot of conversations today. We're in a region with 4 other counties. So there's been a real emphasis today on trying to coordinate with those other leagues in our region and trying to find a way to get kids back on the field. And what that's going to look like, we're not too sure yet. We're still in preliminary conversations. But our goal this year is not to win trophies, not to win state championships. It's to get games on the schedule and play those games. I mean, that's what's most important to us. So any way that we can do that, that's how we're going to move forward. Maybe Russ and Jim could talk a little bit more about the conversations we've had, because we have talked with them a lot, and it might be a situation where we're playing bigger schools out of our classification that are closer to us in order to just get games, because I don't know how many competitions we're going to be able to have outside of our region. So things will probably look different once we do start playing, but we're totally fine with that as long as we're on the fields.
Yeah, of course, this conversation has had to include what's happening with the state of Washington and the restart phasing and such. And now with the governor coming out, and I know that's why the WIAA executive board vote was delayed so that they could take a look at the Healthy Washington initiative by the governor, creating 8 regions in our state. For the Caribou Trail League, well, you're all in the same region, so I don't imagine that has that big of an impact, but the Columbia Basin Big Nine is a different story. So Russ, I'll start with you. As far as the Big Nine is concerned, where are we?
I just want to echo what Jeff said. I mean, we're all in the same boat. Every AD in the state of Washington's doing the same thing today, scrambling and in Zoom meetings and talking. And again, the mission priority for us at this point is get kids back into the fold. Let's get them back in the practices, in with our coaches, give them some semblance of something else besides, life at home that we've had them in for forever and ever. And then you look at that situation of being in a 2-county league, and now with the governor's directive to regional league, we discussed as the Big Nine, and to an AD in the league, it was, fellas, don't wait for us. If our region's not there, we're not going to hold us to a Big Nine schedule. So I think the consensus at this point, but there's got to be a lot more discussion, a lot more input and research on this, is to go to more of a regionalization format. It makes a lot of sense. The things that Jeff was saying, it makes a lot of sense in regards to COVID. in regards to putting kids on a bus, smaller distance for transportation. We're all on the same page. We're not going to build a schedule that's going to be canceled 2 days before a competition because the metrics went sideways. It just makes a lot of sense. But we've got a lot of conversation to do with a lot of different ADs, a lot of different district superintendents, and everybody else to make sure that we've got everything ready to go, and we've only got a very short amount of time to get that done.
So when you talk about being regionally, does that mean that the leagues kind of go away and it's Cashmere playing Wenatchee or Eastmont, that type of thing?
I think that's what we're talking about right now is making a competitive balance out of what we'd be looking at, like in the North Central region. Remember, that's going to be, Grant County, Chelan, Douglas, and Okanagan. And how do we make that work so the competition's still there and we're able to balance that and then, move forward. Again, puts everybody on the same playing field in regard to COVID metrics and everything else.
Jim, let's bring you into this conversation. They pinpointed February 1st as a possible start. Of course, with the phasing, everybody's in phase 1 right now. It'd take phase 2 to get things back on their way, according to what I read yesterday. So for Wenatchee High School, for football, for example, does that mean practice starts on February 1st and there's possibly games 2 weeks later, or what's that look like?
Well, that was a big part of what our conversations were about, and we've had meetings in terms of our league, and we've also had that regional concept. Some of us got together and had conversations about realistically, the ability to start on February 1st is not very good. Obviously because we have a turf field and can remove the snow from our turf field, it benefits us, and we potentially could be ready to go by February 1st. But if you've been out to Leavenworth lately or up north in Okanagan area and those kinds of places, playing football on February 1st is not going to happen. And so that's part of our discussion, and that's what makes this so difficult is not only are we looking at the reality that the best thing is regionalizing things, but then we've got to realize we've got to take, I think the decision the WIAA executive board was made more because there's more schools in Western Washington and their ability to get outside on February 1st is much greater than ours, but they've also given us the leniency to be able to change and modify to what best fits us in our region. And that's what a lot of the conversations have been about. And obviously, we're just the Big Nine is 3 of the schools that are in our region. And obviously there's a lot more schools that we have got to take that into consideration. And we all got to work together and come up with a plan that isn't necessarily starting on February 1, but trying to offer everything and eliminate some overlaps, because the overlaps aren't going to do anybody a whole lot of good in terms of having adults coaching cross coaching different sports and having kids participating and not being able to field a team because kids are choosing to play football instead of basketball or things like that. So we have an immense project in front of us to try to figure out what is going to be best for our kids and our communities and making it work within a 4-county region.
So Jeff, let me toss this back to you. Of course, Caribou Trail League, you kind of changed your scope a little bit this past year with adding Quincy and dropping Okanagan. It seems like it was forever ago that we even had that conversation. But are we only talking varsity here? And varsity sports for like Cashmere is a lot different than varsity sports in numbers for Wenatchee or Eastmont.
Yeah, Eric, I'll tell you, when the governor spoke with this new Washington recovery plan, that evening I got a call from Brian Johnson, the Freight Athletic Director, who said it makes sense for us to join your league just because they're the only CWAC school in our 4-county region. It just makes sense. And so that's where this kind of started. And the next day we realized that, we reached out to Wenatchee and Eastmont, Moses Lake, the 3 Big Nine schools that are also in our region, and tried to, just brainstorm and come up with a plan of what this might look like. So no, when we're talking, we compete against Wenatchee and Eastmont in a lot of sports. We're playing them in soccer, we're playing them in basketball, sports that we're successful in, that we compete with them in, but in regards to football, we're not going to be able to play Wenatchee and Eastmont. in football or Moses Lake. It wouldn't be most years a very competitive game, but they're willing to work with us and possibly do, be creative. Maybe we play their JV, or there's different things we can do. But I think we're looking at possibly a tiered system where we have certain teams in the top tier and different tiers based on competitive balance. And I think that would differ from sport to sport. Again, these are all preliminary conversations, Eric. We've just gotten started with this. We need to get a lot more input from our coaches, a lot more input from fellow administrators in our districts before we make these types of decisions. But today has been good with a lot of brainstorming and try to figure out how we can make this experience the best for kids once we get them back on the fields.
Well, my math is not the greatest, but I just calculated it's been 306 days since the state 1A tournament in Yakima, really the kind of last official high school sports we've been able to talk about on the NCW Life channel. I know you guys have been talking about sports a lot. Russ, I thought that this was varsity only. So I'm wrong in that when we're talking about any kind of resumption of sports, or how?
Yeah, this is program wise. And we talked today in the Big Nine, we talked with the CTL today that what does it look like? Right now, the priority would be to, yes, have a varsity schedule, but we want to try and get as many of our kids back participating as possible and make this work. If that means that we're going to have, play multiple times with schools, if we have to play Moses Lake and Wenatchee multiple times with a JV team or a C or D team, then so be it, because it's about, again, that social mental health of these kids getting back with their friends and their coaches and doing something productive that's a positive in their life, as well as giving them that outlet, that physical outlet that a lot of them need. So we're trying to go with that. It's going to be different. There's nobody that believes it's going to be the same, and we're ready for that, but we're going to try and bring it as much as normal as possible with every level to compete. To echo what Jeff said, we're going to be creative out of the box, however it needs to be, with everything that goes on in our program. And so if that's where we have to look at and put the best competitive balance together with a varsity football team, maybe that's a blend between varsity and JV players to play a Cashmere or an Afraid or something like that. But these are all discussions that we need to have with multiple players at the table before we can move forward. But anything and everything is going to be looked at to make this happen.
Jim, I know your head football coach, Scott Devereaux, was part of kind of a coaches consortium trying to get the state to let football happen. Here we had, 38 states around the country that just had successful fall sports and have entered winter sports campaigns, whatever's happening with COVID. Is that anything that you guys can look at, or is it just kind of, let's figure this out for the situation we have here in the state of Washington?
Well, I mean, I think all of that data has been presented to the governor's office and Scott, the group that Scott's been working with, the Football Coaches Association. They've been working with, I know, Oregon coaches and California coaches. And I mean, the reality of it is the reality is what it is. And now they have kind of softened it a little bit. If we get to phase 2, we can play football outside. And so we'll just take for whatever we can get. Kind of echo what Jeff and Russ have been talking about. The good thing about this is that this regional concept is that all of the ADs, that the CTL ADs and our ADs and even the 1Bs and the 2Bs, everybody's in it for the right reason, and they're all great human beings, and we all get along well, and everybody's recognized that our goal is to do what's best for kids. And it's kind of hypocritical for us if we just came back and said we were playing a varsity schedule. If we talk about all the time the social emotional well-being of our kids, and we need to get our kids back and get them providing stuff. But then we're going to say, okay, but we're only going to allow it for the elite, the best kids, and not for the JV, the C team, and the D team. And so that's why we've been so committed to doing whatever we can do to maintain normalcy. And as Russ stated, that means we may play Eastmont 4 times, but I know, speaking for our coaches and the kids that I've talked to, they're just going to be happy to play. And whoever that is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's got to be, it has to be frustrating for you guys to be moving forward with the intent of having the different WIAA seasons that had winter as season one, and that was hopefully February sometime. And then, well, hang on, we're not going to do that. Now, the quote from Mick Hoffman at the WIAA was that the change in the guidelines allow traditional fall sports to be played in phase 2, while we still do not have a clear pathway to the high-risk indoor activities of basketball, competitive cheer and dance and wrestling, et cetera. But it kind of doesn't make sense for me. And maybe, Jeff, I'll toss this to you first. Unfortunately, you got the short straw here. Volleyball's inside. So how can we play volleyball if we're not clear about where we are on the phasing?
Yeah, well, volleyball is deemed a moderate risk sport, whereas basketball and wrestling, the other two indoor sports, are high risk. So when we reach phase 2, we'll be able to have volleyball competitions indoors. That being said, it's, the WIA is getting all their guidance, like Jim said, from the Department of Health. And I know things are constantly changing. I know Mick's working closely, and the WI executive board, the WI staff works closely with the Department of Health, with the governor's office, and things are changing. They change often. So they can only do so much. And they've done a great job of being transparent, passing along that information to us. And yeah, it's been challenging, Eric. We're problem solvers, athletic directors, and our hands have been tied. We're only going with the information that we get, and it's been difficult. But our jobs are to be upbeat and positive, and try to give kids hope. What makes this most difficult is when we have to give them hope and then tell them that we're not able to start on this date and move it back again. And that's happened all the way since March. And that by far has been the most challenging thing with the situation that we're in.
So Russ, when we get back, whenever that is, to actually playing games, will mom and dad be able to come watch?
If I recall what's in the governor's order right now, I think it's capped at a maximum level of, I think it's 300 per venue on those competitions. And that includes participants, coaches, your workers, officials. And so when that gets solidified, then of course we'll look at how we can make this available for the immediate families as much as possible. And that's going to be something that, as we have these discussions through regionalization, what is it that everybody's comfortable in allowing? We got to all be at the same table playing by the same rules. So we're going to say, hey, we're going to offer 100 tickets to a visiting venue. It's got to be the parents of your rostered kids. Does that mean after a contest that we empty the gym, those parents have to leave so the new parents can come in? There's still a lot of things that we need to look at. And the beautiful thing about this is Eric is smart and is adaptive, and how much we can pivot as ADs. ADs in this country have been doing it since the start of school. There's a lot of plans out there we can beg, borrow, and steal from. They'll allow it. There's some movement. The Big Nine's going to move forward with online ticketing in that direction. So we're going to be able to get, everybody's had that to get a concert venue. We've all bought tickets online. We're going to move that way with the Big Nine. I know that Ephrata's gone that direction. The CTL is not going to do it this year, but probably next. So we'll be a good test product for the CTL. But again, ultimately we want to start with the players, the officials, the coaches on the floor, on the field, wherever we are. And then we'll move to families. The other factor that Big Nine has is we'll be streaming all of our events on the NFHS network. So if we don't have live parents or live venue or fans, we're going to stream it online so people can see their kids and their grandsons and their nephews and friends all play. So we're thinking of those people too.
I'll pop back to Jeff real quick because I hear that Cashmere also had an agreement with the NFHS network. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, 4 out of the 5 schools in the Caribou Trail League will be able to stream all contests that are played in their gymnasiums or out at their football stadiums. So that's something that we're excited about. NFHS offered that a deal to us. We took advantage of it, and I know it'll be a great benefit to those parents and fans that aren't able to be in our venues to watch those games.
Jim, there's 2 elements that we're not thinking about. We're talking about the kids here, of course, health and safety, number one, but there's also the coaches. There's also transportation. So that's got to be part of this whole discussion too, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the health and safety of all of our kids and all of our adults that are involved in them. And nothing else, just trying to figure out how we can get our coaches paid, because, you know, the livelihood of some of our coaches are teachers, some of them are not, but a lot of them have budgeted for whatever they're going to make for coaching for a family vacation or something, whatever. But so trying to get it to where we get everything started and we're not putting everybody in a conflict in terms of, if you're coaching, like at Cashmere, and even here we have got people that coach boys and girls soccer, and so we can't have those functioning at the same time. And so that's a huge element of it, the coaches piece, and making sure our coaches are on board and wanting to coach, and that we don't set something up to where we don't have a coach, because then we have to go hire a new coach, and that's going to be a difficult thing. The transportation piece is probably going to be the single most difficult piece that we have once it's all said and done, because we're just probably going to, you know, there's no real rules out there right now for transportation. There's no set guidelines. So each district will basically set their own guidelines in terms of what the rules are for transportation. I've called A&A and they've told me, you're renting the bus, so you're going to tell us what the rules are going to be. The only rule they have is there's a piece of plexiglass behind the bus driver and no one is sitting in that seat. And now we can go every other seat. We can go 2 in every seat. We can do whatever we want to do. We're renting the bus. It's our prerogative, because there's no rules at the present time saying what they're going to do. We as a district have decided that we're going to go every other seat. So if we're taking a regular bus holds 52 people and we're taking 52 people, we're now taking 2 buses instead of 1 bus. So basically our transportation budget will be doubled for everything that we do, except for the fact our schedules will be a little bit shorter. So, but being able to find drivers and buses, and that's the other byproduct of putting all of this together and trying to offer a whole bunch of stuff, and then thinking we're going to get everybody transported to where we want to get them. There's a lot of things that look really good on paper, but when it comes to actually the action part of doing it, it's going to be a whole lot more difficult.
Russ, this has kind of been a cruel game of red light, green light, where we start and we stop and we start and we stop. What are you hearing from the kids?
I'll tell you what, I've heard from my coaches, I've heard from our athletes, and the 2 saddest days in 2020 is when we had to shut down twice. You know, we were blessed that we were able to get some days in June with our athletes, and to see them demoralized and distraught and in tears because we're taking that away from them, and then to reopen again and then having to shut down in mid-October and tell them thanks, but we'll see you when we can see you. It was really tough. Our coaching staff at Eastmont's been working out of season, Zoom meetings, Google Meets, Google Classrooms, Hangouts, trying to stay in touch with our athletes and do projects and other things that are going on to stay in connection with them. That honestly, Eric, it's just the hardest thing. It's bad enough when your seniors graduate and that last senior night football game or basketball game or bowling match or whatever the sport is on senior night, and that's the last home time they're putting on the bright red and Columbia blue. That's sad enough. And then at graduation, but to go through it multiple times over something we have zero control over, I think that's the most frustrating thing in families, as ADs, as administrators in the schools. We have zero control over this. And it's just a disappointment. I'm just tickled pink that we have a green light right now, that we have an avenue. We have hope again. You know, Jeff used that word hope. We have hope right now that we're going to make a season happen. And by God, that's my task, is to make this happen the best that we can do. Be safe for our athletes, our coaches, our families, our community, our officials. But by God, let's get back to doing something that is going to help these kids out.
All right, I'm going to go around the horn here. Ask for you on a betting man's position. Jeff, I'll start with you. When and what is the first game Cashmere will play in February?
Well, Eric, I hope we're playing in February. If I was a betting man, I want to be optimistic. I don't know if we'll play a game in February, but I would say hopefully start practices in February, and we'd be playing competitions early March.
Okay. And do you have a bet on which sport will be the first we'll be able to see?
Um, I think cross country, volleyball, football. I don't know, Eric. That's a tough question. You're putting me on the spot. Uh, I hope we're able to play some fall sports early March. Yeah, I don't know which ones.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll leave it at that. Russ, all right. It's up to you. What do you think?
If all things stay consistent the way we are right now with what's been laid out, and if we get a regional plan in place and we're going to start with fall sports and move forward, we will have a girls swim and dive meet. Will be the first meet that we have.
Okay. And
Cashmere is invited as a co-op.
Okay,
We'll have
cool.
girls there competing. That's awesome.
So are we saying late February for that, or are you thinking early March as well?
No, I think we can get that. If all things stay the same and we start on Feb 1, I think we can schedule some swim meets for those that are able to participate, which most likely will be Wenatchee, Moses, and Eastmont, and we'll have our co-ops coming in from Quincy and Cashmere to participate. But I think that's the first thing we'll actually see be a competition. Next will be cross country, and there you see some more regional teams
and
in there.
be able to see that brand new pool across the street. So that'll be
It's
nice.
beautiful inside. I know that the Parks and Rec Department, they want to show that thing off. So our plan is trying to figure out some tech ability to get a camera up and stream those meets and dive meets when we have them from that beautiful facility that we use.
Well, you have an in with a certain TV station, so there might be.
No, it's a good thing. We have to talk, buddy.
All right, Jim, what are you thinking? Betting man, what do you think we're going to see out of Wenatchee High School?
Well, I agree with Russ. I was hoping he was going to say something else and forgot about girls swimming, but just because it's a low sport and we can start that. We can be in the pool right now, doing things in the pool right now. We just still have to get to phase 2 to have competitions, but we got to get to phase 2 to have anything. But that's going to be the easiest thing I think for us to do is swimming. And then I would say, just like everybody else, cross country and volleyball probably next. And those, I would probably say girls swim and then volleyball, because getting kids outside to do things in early February is going to be a little bit more difficult. Who knows? I mean, two winters ago, we had the same kind of winter we're having right now, and we thought we were going to be great, and we had goals out on the Apple Bowl and everything else, and then we got 2 feet of snow, and I was with a snowblower blowing out so we could move the nets and get the field plowed. So being outside, doing anything outside is going to be difficult, I think, until March.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time today. I know it's fresh and obviously things are still, I think we've dropped the whole pencil idea and everything's dry erase now. It's just much easier to take off the board, but hopefully we're able to stick with what we can put on the board here. And we appreciate your stick-to-itiveness and your guys' ability to be flexible, as well as the rest of the ADs and administration across the state. And I'll give kudos too. They don't really get it a lot, but WIAA has been very open about being thinking outside the box on this too. And so I kudos to them on their willingness to do so, to try to get something for these kids here in 2020 and 2021.
Eric, on that, I just want to carry that one step further. I think a lot of people are under the impression WIAA is making the rules on this. We're at the bottom of the food chain. This is coming from the state level. It's come from DOH, and that's probably where those decisions need to be made. And they've been a very good source, the WIAA, of pivoting on last minute. And I have to give kudos to Mick Hoffman and his staff over there. They have been transparent. They've communicated at every turn on this. If you ever have a chance to hear Mick Hoffman's op-ed about athletics, they want our kids on the pitch. They want our kids in the pool. They want our kids participating just as much as the parents and we do, guaranteed. So kudos to the WIAA. Spot on with that.
Amen.
Jeff, any final words?
Again, just excited that we're talking about this, Eric. It's our jobs are relevant again now that we get to have these conversations and talk about the possibility of having athletics going again. I know it gives not only our athletes, but our coaches are excited, and just look forward to seeing you in our gym, watching our games.
Sounds good, gentlemen. Thank you much. Happy New Year, and here's to a much better 2021.